Each one of these courses are based on what I've developed called the Psyche Operating System. So the Psyche Operating System allows you to figure out how you operate and the operating system of those around it. The great thing is, it could be negative as well, is that most people around us, there's only a couple flavors of operating systems today. So you can understand the way people think very quickly. And then through there, you have different levels. The biggest problems today is that most people are very non-agential. They don't have agency. And I believe this comes from so much of the training and the programming. People are seeking validation. They're looking for permission, or they're begging for forgiveness, and so on. And you can see this in everywhere they talk about it. And, what's a great example? I'm going to die for my country. Not me. I'll kill for my country, but I don't plan on dying for it. You let these guys come and take my guns, right? Come and take them. As opposed to, you can try to take them, but I'm going to stack you like cordwood. So this idea of what is happening, you can see this even subtly in the way people view things. Or if you had two people in Japan that were going into an elevator car and the person held the door, most likely a Japanese person would say sumimasen, which would be excuse me for troubling you or taking your time. The American who spoke Japanese would probably say domo or arigato, thank you for holding the door, right? So are you looking at this inward or outward? And most of the things that happen are that we've been trained to literally be farm animals, right? Human husbandry. So we're looking for permission. We're looking that this is okay. We have very limited ability to take control and architect what we want. Many of us have internalized stoicism. So I look at stoicism, one of the memes that I made and used for a long time. And again, stoicism, very powerful. We want to have resiliency. We need that. And that would look like, the famous Buddhist monk who's burned himself alive, self-immolating during the Vietnam War, right? Sitting there on fire. So that's resiliency. We need that. That's a grounded piece. But we also need the ability to architect and execute our plan. And, if you look at some of the futurists, he's passed now, but Alvin Toffler, he said that effectively, if you don't have a strategy of your own, you're simply the part of someone else's strategy. And that's the way most people live their life to get what we want. How do we deal? And I call these life nodes, but life includes things like career, your job, your wife or spouse, your kids, neighbors, coworkers, the police, court systems, all of these things. Once we understand the way the world's actually operating, and this is why I don't necessarily subscribe to a blue pill, red pill view beyond blue and red pill. Red pill is the way the world is, seeing it with clear eyes. The blue pill may be not understanding what's happening or purposely trying to not view the world as it is. I look at it differently. I look at the red pill as telling you what's happening, built a model so that we can predict it. See, the red pill requires a lot of knowledge or empirics of each thing that we apply it to. But if we've got a model of human behavior, we can expect what's going to happen, right? This is why people say, oh, I've lost faith in humanity, or this is sad or crazy. Not my model. My model says, wow, thank God they act that way. Otherwise, I'd have to build a new model. So it's pretty accurate in predicting. And why I've said for years, people aren't going to just use their gun and storm the Capitol. Even if you look at January 6th, however you define that as a protest or not, you didn't see any guns there because they're not going to do it. And if you understand the models, it'll explain why they won't. And then the next step is, how can you move yourself into this idea of always architecting the outcome that you want? See, most people only know how to defend themselves psychologically and at a very limited level at that as well, right? They're always looking for a job, looking for a paycheck, how to add value, how do you, describe what you have and so forth. And then you also have the ability to punch. Right? So if someone told you, listen, I don't like that, you're going to get fired and I'm going to blacklist you, what do? Fine, you can do that. And I'm assuming you're not mad at me, or maybe you are. I don't care. This is what I'm going to do to you. I'm going to do this to you. I'm going to take your job. I'm going to take your reputation. And I think I'm going to take your marriage as well. And I'm going to do it all psychologically. Tell you, when that happens, immediately it shifts. And the guy will say through the model, what are you, crazy? Are you mad? I'm not mad, man. It's just business. And I'll be back with my family on Sunday for a barbecue. It's nothing personal. It's just business. Now you have respect. Now you're at a whole different level. Have combat. That said, Psyche Combat is not about, just nuking everyone and bombing everything. The combat may be using silence. It may be not triggering, not breaking the harmony or the wall, keeping a small psychological footprint or psychological wake. And sometimes you want it to be big. Other cases you don't. So it's not just gratuitously battling someone. It may just be very small things here or there. Great example. If you've got a meeting and it looks like one of these ambush meetings at work, and the guy, it's going to be something about performance, and maybe it's even a lie. And the manager says, how you doing? Well, the reason he's saying that is two reasons. He's doing it to see how you are, gauging your behavior and your reaction to him, and ideally hoping that you're going to say, I'm doing great, Tony. And then he's going to lay everything on you, and you're going to be locked in because of the consistency model. And what, you're not going to shift to tell him that something's wrong or whatever? No. But if you have Psyche Combat, as soon as he says that, what's going on. You're going to say, I don't know, Tony. It really depends on how this meeting goes.
You're talking about calibrating and perfecting your offensive game as you describe here. And then.
Yes. And knowing exactly what to say and knowing what his next move is going to be, right? And you have your choice to play him out and let him play the game. We have things called cascades and carousels, or we can stop him at any second. We can turn it around. We can befuddle him. It's knowing exactly what that person is going to do and what we want them to do. Now, doesn't work in every step, but that's fine. He's on a timeline. We then have calibration tools to move him back. But again, we're not going to be sitting there where it's just a beat down and the person's fired or lost or taken over for the promotion, or there's some kind of defamation at work, because that's the way it works. And also, you're going to avoid a lot of problems. Again, home life, people apply this. And these same things are just in the other courses as well, like lovers clash and so on. Turn your marriage around immediately. If you've already divorced, fix the post-divorce type of situation and learn how to control these people. But you're going to do it in a way, sure, sometimes there's knockdown dragouts and you don't want the person in your life. But like you're saying with Aikido and these other things, simply a little wrist lock or a little hip throw or whatever is going to change everything. That little nudge is going to change things. And the idea is you've got the combat skill, but just like in the military, that you don't want to see these, giant battles. You're trying to get the advantage and win surgically and in other areas.
Well, that's straight up Sun Tzu, the art of war.
Art of war, exactly.
The highest skill is to not do battle at all.
Yeah, correct.
And so this psych to first detect, then deflect, and if necessary, diffuse, disarm, or destroy without looking like the bad guy. In fact, you try to disarm or destroy the aggressor while looking like the nice guy.
Correct. Yeah. And I'll give you an example. I've done recruiting as well, and at the high-end talent acquisition side called RPO, recruitment process outsourcing. This is where you manage the entire acquisition for the corporation, right? So there can be hundreds of jobs, 30, 40, 50 different stakeholders, hiring managers. So I've seen this at scale. Let's say that you're at work and you're dealing with office politics. So many people think, I'll just get a new job. Every time you get a job, you have additional risk. You've got career wounds. You could look job hoppy. You could miss other upward promotional paths. And there's always the risk that new environment, because the issue is always people, could be even worse than where you're leaving. So why should you have to leave when you have the ability with Psyche Combat to understand how people are thinking about you immediately? And again, some of these are through active interrogation. Other ones are forensic tests that I have that you just set, and it's just like checking a trap, like you check for malaria mosquitoes or dengue or West Nile virus in Florida. Same thing. These tests have already been built. Other tests let you run them in your head, and you can run these in your head before it happens, after it happened, and you'll always get the correct answer.
And you've got step-by-step procedures for people to follow here?
Yeah. So one example, I'll give you one now. It sounds very simple, but Swedish Blonde Test. Imagine that you were calling a particular client or manager and you had a meeting, and it's critical. He knows it's critical, but he won't meet with you. What's going on? Well, the Swedish Blonde Test is simple. If you were a hot Swedish blonde girl and you had no value to offer him other than being a hot Swedish blonde girl, I guarantee he would have time for you to meet. So therefore, it's something else. He has time. He's not allocating it. You know that. So you cannot lie to yourself that he's busy or whatever. There's issues. Maybe that he's setting you up for the fall. It may be that he still doesn't think it's that important. But if it is important at the end, he's going to blame it on you. So these these tests make it where you cannot lie to yourself. So Psyche Combat, just like the other courses, removes all of the deception, self-deception of yourself, deception of people deceiving you, people who are deceiving themselves and then deceiving you. And then you understand exactly how to act and what the various outcomes will be. It's a very clear methodology when you should act or not. So all of these are kind of baked into that.
And that's just one example of a tool that you'll gain from this course. Give us a couple other names without going into the details or spilling too many secrets, but what other types of tests and checklists are available when you go through this course?
So all of your psych deception to understand how other people are thinking. Other things include what I call like a carousel of choice or answer array. So you'll know exactly what people are going to do before they do it. Then you'll know when you can step in or not. Another example is this also introduces the programmable psyche. So again, you're going to be able to use all these pieces. If you don't want someone around you, you can make them eject. At the same time, you'll know how to control them. Another example is mind blind. You can make people do things like the Jedi mind trick where they don't even know that you had sent them, for instance, emails. Okay. So you can use this to punch far above your weight and be congruent, not feel bad about it, and win in these environments. It would be the same thing if you're dealing with a job interview. Most people go in very mousy, but that's the other side when you need to be a bit more aggressive, and it shows you how to calibrate. So what do you say to someone that says you're too weak or too quiet or not qualified? That shows you exactly how to get in there and do some grappling and make them like you and turn everything around where you are the person who's in control. You're the person that's in control. And again, this is not something that you need to spend a lot of time on. This is just like you'd see in martial arts. So economy of motion, conservation of energy, your distance, footwork, so on. But it works against people who have the power, but psychologically, you're able to turn that around in your favor, just like you do in judo or aikido. You use their energy against them. You may redirect it and so forth, or even prevent them from doing something. And again, this is to make your life better. But for most people, they are in a situation where they're very aggressive in sports or the dojo, so on. But in these other social aspects, they don't understand. It's because they haven't been taught. What are the limits that I can do? Is this acceptable? What will they do? What is the outcome? Well, we tell you through the model exactly what you're going to get. And what are examples of people have taken it? I still get, we had another class just finished recently, mortgage bankers, litigation lawyers, actors. We have people who've been in the military, guys who work at famous tech companies for, companies you would know going into space. And they'll say, wow, this has changed already the way I view everything, what I consider doable, how I'm closing deals on the sales side. I didn't know that I can say this is no or unacceptable or take control. So it's a whole different paradigm. That's why I call it not even a paradigm shift, but paradigm shattering. And then you're given the tools to understand, again, how people are thinking and then stopping most of the problems before they even happen and even finding opportunities where you thought there was none. So in fact, many times a problem you see is a far better and greater opportunity when someone said no, when they've had no engagement to begin with.
Well, that sounds really intriguing and certainly would be a benefit to anybody who's interested in martial arts or success or trying to transcend this crazy world and where it seems like so much is stacked up against us.